In number 15, we're going to be solving multi-step linear equations. And we're going to keep doing exactly the same thing we were doing with the linear equations that we were doing in notes 14. We're always going to start off by clearing the fractions by multiplying through by the least common denominator if they're denominators. And then simplify each side as much as possible. You don't want to have more than one variable roaming around on either side. Combine like terms at that point if you have them, or constants. Then finally, isolate the x or the variable for the equation. And again, for consistency, I'm going to solve for the x on the left-hand side. Once you get better at it, you'll be comfortable going either direction. The very last thing you should be doing is dividing, if at all. And that would be the very last step. And then again, you're always welcome to check your answer. I'm not going to do that on the video because I'm going to try to get through this, but now you know how. So you're welcome to do that. All right, let's start. In solving, if you have, and this is why we learned about like terms and the distribution process. If you have parentheses like this in an equation, the first step is going to be to distribute that -3 through the parentheses. -3 times a is -3a. -3 times -2 is a +6. And now it's just a regular linear equation. There isn't anything on either side to simplify, so I'm going to go ahead and start by isolating the a's. That's what we're solving for. I need to move the 6 over to the other side, so when that +6 crosses over to the other side, it's going to become a -6. Now I have -3a is equal to 13 minus 6, which is 7. To get the a all by itself, the very last step, I'm going to divide both sides by a -3. So the -3's cancel. I get a equals -7/3. Let's look at another one just like it, or pretty close. We're going to start by distributing through the parentheses. 2 times y is 2y. 2 times 5 is 10. There's a -3 and an equal 11 also. Now here's what we were talking about. If you have more than one constant on the same side, you see how the equal sign is that magic separation of the equation into two parts. You're going to combine any like terms on the left and on the right that exist. So I've got this 2y, and then +10 and -3 are the same type of term, so I combine them to make +7, then bring down the rest of the equation. Finally, once you've got it simplified, it's ready to go. I want to get the y's all by themselves on the left, so that 7 needs to be moved over, doesn't he? But when he crosses over the equal sign, he becomes a -7. Now combine like terms again. I've got 2y equals, and the 11 minus 7 is 4. To get the y solved for, I'm going to divide by 2 to get it off of the y, but if I do it to one side, do it to the other. And I'm left with y equals 4 divided by 2, which is 2. And you're welcome to check any of these that you'd like. Stop the video if you'd like to have time to do that. Number 3 doesn't have any parentheses, but I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, oh, this one's got x's on both sides and constants on both sides. I'm going to solve for my x's on the left until I get really good at it. So this 3 really needs to be on the other side, doesn't he, of the equal sign. Here's the equal that separates the equation into two parts. So I'm moving the 3 over to the right. That's where I want him. These x's I'd really like on the left, so I'm going to move them, and those 2 x's will look like what on the left? That's right, a -2x. Now we can combine like terms. 8 x's and -2x's add up to 6x. And -21 and a -3 combine or add up to being -24. Now we've got 6x equals -24. To get the x all by itself, I need to get that 6 that's multiplied onto it off. I'm going to divide by 6, but if I do it to one side, I got to do it to the other side. That's always the last step in every one of these equations that we're solving. The 6's cancel, we get the x, And negative 24 divided by 6 is a negative answer. 24 divided by 6 is a negative 4. On number 4, here's the equal sign that separates the two sides of the equation. So I'm going to start off by cleaning it up a little bit. I have multiple a's on the same side. A negative 3a and a 4a add up to an a. Then I've got a plus 4 equals. On the right-hand side, I've got a 13 and a negative 27. When I combine 13 and negative 27, I get a negative 14. Now we're ready to solve. To get the a all by itself on the left, I'm going to move the 4 over to the other side. This positive 4, though, when it goes over the equal sign, becomes a negative 4. So I get the a all by itself. That's what I wanted. And negative 14 and a minus 4 make negative 18. Let's continue. All right, I'm going to start by noticing that on number 5, I have one of those parentheses. So I am going to distribute, but this doesn't number, or does it? That's right. That's a negative 1, isn't it? And you can put it in there if you want to, or just know that if you've got a negative in front of a parentheses, you're going to distribute a negative 1, like this. Bring down the 4. Negative 1 times 6 is minus 6. Negative 1 times negative x is a positive x. Now, once I've got everything cleaned up, I do need to combine the like terms. I've got a 4 and a negative 6 that can be combined. They make negative 2 plus x equals 11. Once you have them completely simplified, here's the two sides of the equation. I'm going to get the x all by itself on the left, so I need to move that negative 2 over. But when I move him over the equal sign, remember, he changes sign. He is now a positive 2. So we get x equals, and 11 plus 2 is 13. You're welcome to stop the video and check at any point to see how that looks. On number 6, we have parentheses on both sides. So I'm going to start by distributing the negative 2 onto the first parentheses, and on the other side, distribute the 3 onto the second parentheses. I do have that equal sign. I'm going to keep track of him. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times 1 is minus 2. On the other side, 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 9 is negative 27. All right, now I want to get all the x's on the left, all the constants on the right. So I'm going to start by moving the negative 2 over to the right-hand side. Remember, here's the equal sign. Got to be careful that when I move something, it goes all the way over the equal. That negative 2, when it moves over, is going to become a positive 2. Doesn't matter where you put them. You can put them at the end. You can put them right underneath. It's up to you. I also would like these x's on the left, don't I? So I'm going to move that 3x back over to the left-hand side. But when he comes over, that positive 3x crossing over the equal sign makes him a negative 3x. Now combine like terms. The negative 2x and the negative 3x are on the left-hand side of the equal, and they add up to be negative 5x's. The negative 27 and the positive 2 add up to be a negative 25. Now we're down to negative 5x equals negative 25. I can divide both sides by a negative 5 to get the x all by itself. That's what I want to happen. And now to get the other side, negative 25 divided by negative 5. A negative by a negative, 2 negatives is a positive answer. And 25 divided by 5 is 5. All right. On this one, I've got a 4 that needs to be distributed onto the first parentheses, and then I've got a negative 1 that I'll distribute onto the second parentheses. Let's do it. 4 times y is 4y. 4 times negative 2 is minus 8. Then I've got this 5y on the other side. Negative 1 times y is minus y, and negative 1 times 1 is minus 1. Now on this one, here's the equal sign that separates the equation into two sides. I've got a 4y and a minus 8. That side is cleaned up as much as it's going to go. But on the other side, I notice that I've got a y term here and a y term there. Those can be combined. 5y's minus 1y is 4y. All right, now I want to get all my y's on the left, all my constants on the right. That negative 8 is going to turn into a positive 8 when I move them to the right over the equal sign. The 4y is going to become a negative 4y. Now let's combine like terms and see what happens. 4y and negative 4y make 0. And negative 1 plus 8 makes 7. Now, that's a lie, isn't it? 0 equals 7. Anytime an equation lies to you, it is a no solution. You can either write the words out or you can write a little circle with a line through it to show that there is no solution. All right, let's do number 8 and then we'll go on to the other video or the next part of the video. Distribute through each parentheses here a 3. 3 times n is 3n. 3 times 8 is 24. I've got a 5n on the other side of the equal sign. Now this negative 2 times n is minus 2n. And negative 2 times negative 12 is plus 24. Here's the equal sign. I've got to make sure each side is completely cleaned up. The 3n plus 24 is fine on the left. But on the right, I notice that I've got 2 n's hanging around. I need to combine those. 5n minus 2n is 3n. And the plus 24. I want to move all my n's to the left, all the constants to the right. That 24, when it crosses over the equal sign, it will become a negative 24. I want this 3n over on the left-hand side. He's going to become a negative 3n when he crosses over the equal. When I combine 3n and negative 3n, I get 0. When I combine 24 and negative 24, I get 0. There's a difference in this one and the last one. This one is true, but it's not something I can solve the traditional way because this has all real numbers as its answer. It's kind of an infinite solution, but you're going to write the answer as all real numbers. All right, I'll see you in the next part.